Chapter 2. I'm calling it. The ER doctor glanced at the clock, not to contradict or second-guess what the nurse reported, but for final confirmation. Details like the time of death is an essential piece of information on the death certificate. Then he spoke those final words. Time of death, 6:33 p.m. It seemed that most of the time, the only purpose for a clock in an emergency room was to let people know when their shift ended, or when to pronounce a patient dead. Those people were trained professionals who were used to this kind of stuff on a routine basis. But on that day, there were tears and faint sniffles. I'd earned a fair amount of respect at the hospital. Not the most loved. After all, I was the hospital's lawyer. I'd thrown a few doctors, nurses, and others under the bus for various misdeeds, and put together defense teams to fight off costly malpractice and wrongful death suits. That's what I got paid to do. Kent, the hospital administrator, was a long-time family friend. He used to be a minister, but said the hospital paid him more than God could afford. Kent got his job when I had his predecessor terminated for taking kickbacks and bribes from vendors and pharmaceutical companies. All my life, I grew up hearing about my father's charity work and the fundraisers he'd done for the hospital. To show their gratitude for his years of service, the hospital board dedicated a floor at St. Grenadines, the Stanford psychiatric unit. Given my family's involvement with the place, I guess it was destiny I'd work there one day. But after working as their lawyer for years, I never expected a response like that from the hard-working ground troops. I underestimated that some of them liked me, probably the ones I didn't have to sue or fire. After the tension faded in the ER, they removed extra equipment and used instruments from the room. The heart monitor was the last detail, which a tech switched off. And that was that. But was it? Though the staff had plenty to do, and for whatever reason a few didn't leave, they stood in place and just looked at me in silence. There seemed to be an eerie presence, and everyone's eyes were glued to my corpse. New arrivals showed up, including the medical chief of staff and 2 clergymen. Father Lucci was doing that sign of the cross deal, and Brother Bob held a Bible close to his chest while offering a prayer. I'd met both of them. I liked Father Lucci, but I was surprised Brother Bob didn't pass around an offering plate. Bev and the kids had been in the waiting room, and everyone I had ever loved and cared for were on hand as witnesses to this ongoing event. I couldn't comprehend how a man, me, dead by all medical standards, could feel so alive and be stuck in a place somewhere between walking and talking among the living, or conversely, a snack for the worms. Wait a doggone minute. Hold the phone and let's back up. Ongoing event? What ongoing event? When you're somewhere between dead and alive, you can bet there will be an ongoing event. This one lasted 3 days. They cleared the room until all that remained was a dim light and me. To add to the backdrop, a sheet covered me from the bottom of my feet to the top of my head and covered my face. The day came to an end, with all I's dotted and T's crossed. Every detail had been dealt with, except one. No one signed the death certificate.